Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here and welcome to my guide to Memoria Misera on the extreme difficulty. This trial is unlocked after completing the new resistance weapon quests in patch 5.25 starting in Kugane. This trial rewards coffers with item level 480 armor specific to the job that you open the coffer with, and each of these pieces has 5 materia slots. Every kill will also net you 2 idols which you can use to buy these pieces from Sintana in Mordona. There's also a triple triad card, but no mount as of this video. This guide is broken into several phases, so please use the timestamps in the description for a shortcut to what you need. The first phase is pretty straightforward, but you'll want to assign some positions for certain mechanics. You'll need to assign clock positions to spread for loaded gun shield, with range and healers taking priority of cardinals and melees and tanks taking priority for intercardinals. You'll also want a separate set of spread positions for Magitek Spark, with everyone spread along the south side of the marker. We assign 1 tank, 2 DPS, and 1 healer to each side for this spread, which will also be used as groups for split damage AoEs in the fight. Group 1 on the left will either stack west or north for their split damage depending on the mechanic, and Group 2 on the right will either stack east or south. We'll call back to this when applicable. The first mechanic you'll see right away is Altius. This does room-wide damage and places a Intermissions Est on every player's position that will be aimed in the direction the player is facing. These will fire a line AoE in the direction they're facing after some delay, so we have all the players stack on the same side and face the same direction to aim them consistently. After Altius is cast, the party should remain still to bait the next attack. After the first Altius is Alea Iacta Est. This has Varus face a random player and do 2 back-to-back attacks. The first is 4 forward slashes, followed by 1 big slash behind him. So get behind him during the cast bar, and after the 4th slash, get back in front of him. Be mindful of those Altius AoEs you baited as well, as they will fire off just after the final slash of Alea Iacta. You'll notice there's a slash animation that covers the whole room here. When this animation goes off, any delayed AoEs, such as Intermissions Est, will begin charging their attacks in your aggro list. You can use this trick for Intermissions Est, Ignis Est, and Ventus Est, so whenever those are on the field, use your aggro list to see the cast bars. Next is Citius, the tank buster. This hits 2 targets at max, so if both tanks stack up to share the hit and use tank cooldowns as well. You can also choose to use tank invulns and take it solo. Heck, with enough personal cooldowns, you can just take it solo in general, but they don't really happen during any mechanics, so when you want to do that is up to you. Anything you're not tank invulning, I'd recommend splitting it like normal. Next is Ignis Est. This will hit a small area in front of Varus after he turns to face a random player. This will place an Ignis Est in the direction he is facing. Not only will that Ignis Est shoot a line AoE after some delay, but Varus will also do a point-blank AoE at the same time. So Ignis Est means get away from Varus and also don't stand in front of him. Watch the cast bar in the aggro list so you know when to get out. For this first Ignis Est, there are actually 2 split damage markers at the same time as the explosion is going out. These always target the healers throughout the fight as long as they're both alive. Remember those 2 groups of 4 we made at the start? Yep, those are your split groups. We just use the east and west split here based on our positions we assigned at the start. Next up is Electrified Gunshield. When this or any attack ending in Gunshield finishes casting, Varus will get a charge bar on your screen. When the charge is full, he will perform a mechanic based on which Gunshield it was. For Electrified Gunshield, the full bar will knock players back. Definitely use knockback prevention here, as if you touch that funky looking area near the wall, you'll actually be jailed and take like 30,000 damage per tick until you're broken free. These jails only have like 1,000 health, so freeing people isn't that bad, but just don't get knocked into the wall. After Electrified Gunshield finishes its initial cast, you'll also have an Altius to stack up for like before. After that is an Ignis Est that you'll hopefully have baited into the same spot as the Altius swords. Don't move until you see that next attack get baited. Now just get out of range of Varus, and when you see the point blank AoE go off, move towards him. If you move in, you'll be fine without knockback prevention, but just use it here. Reinforced Gunshield is next. When the charge finishes filling here, Varus will put up 2 shields that will deflect attacks back at the user, also inflicting a damage over time effect and knocking them back. They will either be front-to-back shields or flank shields. It's best to just stop attacking when the charge gauge is almost full until you see where the shields are so you don't trigger them. During the charge here is another Citius, so tank cooldowns as usual. The final gun shield is Loaded Gunshield. When this charge bar fills, it will hit every player with a large AoE, so everyone needs to be spread out. This will be accompanied by his final Est skill as well, Ventus Est. Like Ignis Est, this starts as a small AoE that is summoned in front of Varus, but this attack, however, does a donut AoE when its cast bar finishes, so standing near the boss and away from the sword's direction is where it's safe. Everyone should stay near the boss, but be ready to go to their spread locations once the donut AoE goes off. Again, we assign these at the start of the fight, and anytime you see loaded Gunshield, you'll need to remember to spread out. After this final Gunshield for Phase 1, Varus will enter a short intermission phase upon casting Vivere Militare Est. Sorry those who know Latin. This intermission is simple. Both tanks will each pop cooldowns and touch one of the 2 blade pulses to initiate an active time event. The tanks just have to spam buttons to block the sword slash, while the rest of the party kills the blade's blood that the tanks are blocking. It pulses damage on the party constantly, so healers, don't slack on this. The tanks also take increased damage during this pulse since they're blocking, so again, make sure they pop some cooldowns. When the blade's blood dies, it also does a huge burst of damage to the party, so watch mitigation and health when it's getting close to death. After this, you will enter Phase 2. Phase 2 does enhanced mechanical dances of all the stuff you did in Phase 1, but the order here for which one happens is actually entirely random. We'll list all 3 of them, but note that the order I present them in is not the order they happen every time. First, we'll talk about loaded Gunshield. This will come alongside Ignis Est, so spread, but outside of that point-blank AoE. Both of these resolve around the same time, so sorry melees, but you probably gotta play safe here. While you're waiting for those to resolve, 4 Terminus Est clones will appear on the north side of the room, and do a line AoE directly across. You can see this attack casting in your aggro list just like the other one. There will be one safe area where the swords aren't aiming, so the party should get there once their loaded Gunshield AoEs go off. It can be quite the run for some people, so probably use sprint for this. Upon getting there will also be 2 split damage AoEs. We did our same split groups like we did in the previous phase, however, because you're lined up from north to south, this is where Group 1 would go north and Group 2 would go south. Regardless of which Gunshield you got first, there's going to be a Citius right after, so tanks, that's on you. Next we'll talk about Electrified Gunshield. Charge bar still knocks you back, but there will be Magitek bit adds to kill this time, as well as more Varus clones doing Terminus Est from the north. There are 3 bits that the party needs to kill that just fire small line AoEs, and 2 bits that will tether to random players and do a tank buster after some delay. Tanks intercept those tethers that you see and pop cooldowns to protect the party. Once the bits are dealt with, everyone should get to the safe spot from the Terminus Ests. These AoEs will go off, and then Electrified Gunshield will finish charging. Knockback prevention or just running towards the boss quickly here, just like you did the first time. Now, regardless of which Gunshield is second, there is a lone Alea Iacta Est here, so just behind for the first 4 slashes, and then switch for the final slash. Finally is Reinforced Gunshield. Varus won't center himself for this one, so the party needs to bear this in mind in case he's not there. Tanks should try to recenter him as best as possible for consistency's sake, but he doesn't always cooperate very well. During the charge for Reinforced Gunshield is an Altius AoE. Handle this the same as you have, and then wait for Ventus Est to start casting before you move. Stay close for the Ventus AoE, but also stay out of the way of all those swords. When the bar fills, Varus will do that same 2-sided block like the first phase. It seems this block is the opposite direction as the first pair of blocks, but Varus actually turns here, so it gets kind of confusing. Sometimes I even see, after he starts autoing, somebody still takes a reflect hit, so it might be safest here to just chill until the reflect wears all the way off. Regardless of which Gunshield is third, there is another Citius here. After this Citius will be another intermission phase before Phase 3. Intermission number 2 has Varus jump to the north side of the room and summon a Gunshield for you to kill before he finishes casting a very long cast Altius. While you're killing the Gunshield, you'll have to do 2 mechanics. Magitek Torch is a split damage AoE, so everyone should stack. Magitek Spark aims a small line AoE at every player. Calling back to the start of the guide, this was what we assigned those half-room spread locations for. That and one upcoming mechanic, but it's only one of the strategies for the upcoming mechanic. The boss will do these attacks back to back, but which order they occur is random every time, so just read the names of the skills on the Gunshield's cast bar. Once the Gunshield is dead, Varus will jump back to the middle and begin Phase 3, the final phase. This is once again Gunshield mechanics and Est mechanics, but with another twist added to them. All the Gunshield mechanics are now accompanied by a new attack, Fortius. This attack will aim a conal AoE at every player and drop a puddle under their current location when they got hit. The conal AoEs then rotate about 25 degrees and strike again, for a total of 4 hits. Now there's 2 different ways I've done this mechanic, and they're the 2 ways that we're going to be using in this video. I have seen a third way, but very seldom in the first day. The first uses our half room spread from Magitek Spark. We just assume these same positions on the south side of the room, after which everyone goes to the north half to avoid the rotation. This makes keeping track of the conal AoEs and the rotation effortless, but it leaves less room for melees for the upcoming spread mechanic. There's still plenty of room to spread if 2 split damage groups cheat towards their respective sides, but you can't use spread positions like we designated earlier. The second strategy uses the spread positions to aim the conal AoEs. Everyone should drop their puddles way out of melee range, and then you can just move left or right to dodge the Fortius AoEs as they rotate. This allows for consistent positioning and uptime with previous phases, and for loaded Gunshield specifically, it makes doing the spread consistent with the previous phases while melees get uptime. The only real downside is you actually need to track the conal AoEs. Since they rotate at a weird rate, getting closer to the boss and just moving into where you saw one just hit is the safest way to dodge here. Fortunately, if someone screws this strategy up, odds are they're the only death. I personally expect this to be the Party Finder norm, or maybe even that third strategy, but I'm leaning towards this one. After the loaded Gunshield goes off, there are 2 split damage AoEs again. We just agreed on stack locations that are consistent pull to pull. East-west worked great for one of the Party Finders I was in, just like in Phase 1. It seems like there's always a bit of panic during loaded Gunshield in this phase, but so long as players don't overlap, the exact logistics of this phase are pretty open-ended. If there's anything I suspect will cause divergence in the Party Finder, it's actually this, so just find what works best. After loaded Gunshield is a lone Citius. Tanks, you know what to do. Next is Electrified Gunshield. Again, Fortius first here. After the rotating AoEs are done, there will be one safe spot from the Varus clone Intermissions Est. So identify it early, like during the cast bar of Fortius, and quickly sprint over to it. Once the AoEs pass through the arena, use knockback prevention or get towards the center for the Electrified Gunshield knockback. It's worth mentioning here that with some mitigation, you can actually survive Intermissions Est from the Varus clones, because you should only get hit by one of them. But you don't want to deliberately get hit by AoEs just for uptime, do you? Uh-oh. Fortunately, there are no reinforced Gunshields in this last phase, but there are a few more mechanics. After Electrified Gunshield, Varus will jump to the center and do Altius. Stack up and aim him like before. While he's casting this, 4 more Intermissions Ests appear to the north, so look for the safe spot now. After Altius finishes casting, run to the safe spot and get into north-south split damage groups. Those Intermissions Est AoEs don't actually go off for a while still, so you could do the split damage markers next to Varus in the center. However, for the sake of positioning for the next mechanics, we preferred to force him to jump to us with the split damage AoEs. After this split, Varus does Ventus Est and Alea Iacta Est back to back. Fortunately, the Intermissions Est won't resolve until just about the second half of the Alea Iacta Est, and like at the end of the second half of it. All that matters here is that players dodge all of the slashes from Alea Iacta Est, and then get in the donut for the Ventus Est while not being hit by the Intermissions Ests. A lot of Latin there, but it's actually pretty easy once you get past the split damage here. After another lone Citius is the final new mechanic. It's simply Ignis Est plus Alea Iacta Est. This one's simple enough, just don't get hit by either of the attacks. Honestly, decent Party Finder groups won't even see this mechanic, and most will barely see past this at all. After that last combo, Varus repeats the 2 Gunshields in the same order, loaded, then electrified. At about the 11-minute 50-second mark, he will do a long cast Altius, which I assume would have wiped us because we didn't actually let it kill us before defeating him, and that would have been at just after the 12-minute mark. The overall DPS check is incredibly lenient, so I hope you don't see this far, ever. And that's going to be a wrap for my guide to Memoria Misera Extreme. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and keep an eye out for some other stuff coming for Final Fantasy XIV in the next couple weeks, as well as, if you're interested, some Final Fantasy VII Remake vids. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one, and until then, take care.